Yes, we can.
Good. I guess it works. Anyway, thanks for inviting us here today. I wanted to reinforce the fact that I'm here with Kelsey, who is going to curate our chat questions tonight. So if you have a question that occurs during the presentation, you could please share it via chat, and we'll try and get to it when we finish the first part of the presentation. As Joanne said, I do have a fairly extensive background and have enjoyed my work in the environmental community for better than 3 decades now. Today, I'd like to share with you some exciting news about an organization with which I'm working, which is conducting a campaign that, if successful, will result in a reduction of greenhouse gases by 40% over the next 10 to 12 years. Now, I know that's a bold claim, so I'd like to give you some more details about the organization, the campaign, how we will achieve those results, and how we can all be a part of this exciting effort. And that's really where we're headed. First, let me tell you a bit about our organization. Citizens Climate Lobby, we also call ourselves CCL, is an international organization, not-for-profit and tax exempt. We have nearly 190,000 volunteers, members, and chapters in every state. Here in Hawaii, we have over 800 members in chapters on Maui, Oahu, Kauai, and the Big Island. On Maui, our members number about 265. Our main activity, as indicated by the name of the organization, is lobbying for local, state, and federal legislation that deals with climate change, which, as we all know, is an existential threat to every human being. We are very busy. This year, CCL members in teams of 3 to 6 visited via Zoom with almost every member of the U.S. House of Representatives and almost every senator. A surprisingly large number of the members and senators actually attended our meetings. The rest sent a senior staff member. In the past, these lobby days, as we call them, have been accompanied by CCL members traveling to Washington. Accomplished by members traveling to Washington. Every one of these citizen lobbyists paid their own way. Partly as a result of these visits, nearly every Hawaii representative and senator are open to and supportive of the concept we are proposing. Our work now revolves around lobbying for a bill in the U.S. House of Representatives that promises to be one of the most important pieces of legislation ever in the fight to overcome climate change. This is the activity that I referred to earlier that will produce that historic 40% reduction in greenhouse gases within the first 12 years after passage. The vehicle for the legislative breakthrough is known as the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act, also known in legislative speak as HR 763. This legislation is part of a strategy known as carbon pricing. The basis of carbon pricing is that burning fossil fuels represents the major source of production of greenhouse gases that are causing global warming and climate change. So the strategy is to make carbon-based fossil fuels more expensive. Then the major users, mostly the electrical power and transportation industries, will replace pollution-producing fuels with renewable power sources such as solar and wind, a process which is already well underway and will continue to accelerate as time goes by. The basic idea is to make the polluters pay more, and they will then accelerate their efforts to switch to more renewable energy systems. In our bill, we accomplish this reduction of burning fossil fuels by putting a fee, a sort of a surcharge, on purchases of fossil fuels by major industrial users. This fee, which will start at $15 per year per metric ton and will increase yearly by $10, is designed to encourage these industrial users to speed up their efforts at innovations in energy usage, policy, and practices, and encourage the switch to renewable sources of energy. The problem with this is that most people believe that the major users of fossil fuels will just increase their prices to make up for their increased costs. In the final analysis, the consumer will pay according to this scenario, and the polluters will just continue with business as usual. The good news is that the tactic that makes our bill work and makes that initial scenario unworkable is the carbon dividend. The idea here is that the funds generated by the fee paid on fossil fuel purchases goes to a trust, not to a government agency. These funds will then be distributed to virtually every American citizen, paid by check at regular intervals, just like Social Security. In this way, the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Bill assures American consumers that they will not be punished when the energy companies increase their fees, which they will. Instead, these funds will go directly to consumers who will then not feel the pain of an increase in prices of energy-related goods and services. Most important, the government cannot claim any of these funds because the funds go directly into a trust, not to the government. They are revenue neutral, do not cost anything to the government. Neither the government nor anyone else has any claim to the funds. We can be assured that all American citizens will be the only recipients. Now, we understand this is a bit much to digest, so we have a handout which is now on your screen that makes it all easier to understand. You should have received a copy of this document in your email probably about a week ago, I think. But just in case, we're sharing it now via the Zoom software. I'd like to go through it line by line and give you some of the highlights, and then maybe that will help you if you decide to learn a little bit more about where we're going and how we can get there. To begin with, the graphic claims that support for the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Bill, as I said, HR 763, is bipartisan. This is true, but just barely. The reality is we have 81 co-sponsors of the bill, which is a very large number of co-sponsors, all members of the House of Representatives. 80 are Democrats and 1 is a Republican. However, we do know that many Republicans support the bill, but are reluctant to sign on as co-sponsors because of the nature of our current political discourse. We also know that climate solutions caucuses in the House and the Senate are truly nonpartisan. Once the Congress gets back to work, we expect a strong groundswell of support from both sides of the aisle. Next is the fact that the fee will be assessed at the first point of sale. It will not escalate as the product goes through producers, distributors, and retailers. It also reminds us that American citizens get all of the net revenue. The next item on the handout reinforces the fact that the average family of 4 will receive over $4,000 a year in the future. 80% of low-income households will, at the least, break even. Each individual and family can spend its dividend as they please. It will be taxable under certain situations, but that may not survive the process or the progress through the process of becoming a law. Next, the bill will create 2.1 million new jobs. It will reduce the $140 billion a year now paid by American citizens to remediate and prevent environmental damage. Next is the fact that right now, 114,000 US lives are lost every year to air pollution. Once passed, the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Bill will save, will save over 295,000 lives. Finally, as I said earlier, the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Bill will, over the course of 10 to 12 years, decrease the greenhouse gases generated in the US by an astonishing 40%. Just think about the impact that a 40% reduction in air pollution is going to have. Support for the bill is impressive and effective. Right now, as I just mentioned, we have 81 co-sponsors. In addition, over 100 municipalities in the US have endorsed the bill. I'm happy to report that the Maui County Council is one of them. Thousands of citizens, in addition to the 190,000 volunteers, have endorsed this bill. Hopefully, all of this gives us a better idea of how this bill will work. Now, I would like you to know that we are a science-based organization. We have had the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Bill vetted by several university-based research organizations. The last study, I'm sorry, Marika, we're through with the image now. If you like, you can go back to the normal. There we go. Sorry about that. Let's see, thousands of citizens, in addition to the 190,000 volunteers, are among them and have endorsed the bill. As I said, we are a science-based organization, and we have had the bill vetted by several university-based research organizations. The last study was conducted by the Columbia University Center on Global Energy Policy. And I'm sure most of us are aware of the reputation of Columbia University. It's old and well established. They produced a 65-page analysis of the bill, which supports virtually all the information we have just discussed. Thankfully, they also produced a 4-page executive summary, which I rely on. This report and several others from other similar institutions are available on our website, and we'll give you information on the website in just a few moments. If you have any further questions, we will be giving you an opportunity in just a few minutes. But for now, we want to give you some ideas on how we can all work together and make the bill a success. CCL is a volunteer membership organization. There is no cost for you to join. CCL does not charge dues and does not send you emails to access. Anyone can join and participate in one of several ways, whichever works best for you. Being a member and a volunteer adds your energy to the 190,000 current supporters. Our website is rich in information and ideas that will help you understand and promote CCL's mission and activities. We always keep members, volunteers, supporters, endorsers, and others up to date on actions and opportunities. Now we come to the underlying reason we have spent this time with you today. We want to extend an invitation for you to join us in taking action that will help deal effectively with the climate change that is occurring all over the planet. We would like you to know that becoming a part of the Citizens Climate Lobby could be one of the most effective ways for all of us together and individually to help. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. We hope you have learned enough to stimulate you to learn more and make a decision to become part of the climate change solution. If you would like to be a part of this effort, please go to our website at www.citizenclimatelobby.org. That's Citizen Climate Lobby. It's all one word, all lowercase, .org. For more information, you can also call me at my Maui number at 808-283-8167. So now we come to questions and answers. My colleague Kimberly is ready with questions that you may have submitted today, as well as some questions we know always come up when we have these conversations. So Kimberly, it's up to you.
Thanks so much, Jeff. That was great. So yeah, right now we're going to go ahead and answer any questions that you guys have. I know it's always good to have a nice presentation to follow up with some questions. So please don't hesitate to ask. Our purpose here today is to encourage support for more public advocates upon environmental legislation. So we're here to answer your questions, but we're also here to address any type of concerns that you may have. A lot of us here, we may be experiencing the impacts of climate change due to the rising sea levels. Some of us own real estate, which is unfortunately eroding if you live near the water. And some of us are mothers and we have children and just looking out for the future generations. So please don't hesitate. We're here and happy to help. So definitely let us know.
Kelsey, I think there was a question from Tori to which I think Barry responded. Do you want to just?
Yes, so I'll go ahead and address that. Just for those of you who can't see the chat, Ms. Tori Taylor had a great question. They asked, are there any administrative costs to the bill? And why not charge these fees directly to all entities using the fossil fuels? So essentially, yes, the Carbon and Fee Dividend Act would be charged to all entities using fossil fuels. So essentially any users. Barry went ahead and addressed it. He said there are some minimal administrative costs. So that's not the bulk of it. Essentially, you would be getting the fee back to you monthly. So this would range anywhere from about $16 to $24 a month per household. So it is per household, it's not necessarily. But yeah, so since the charge would be made on all fossil fuel production within the United States, these fees would be passed on to all users. So it would discourage the use of fossil fuels. So that was a really great question, Tori. And then it would be 11 cents per gallon of gasoline, just to give you a ballpark estimate according to the CCL.
Kelsey, I have a question that I know is going to occur, and we might as well get with it as quick as we can. Basically, the question is this the same as a carbon tax? And the answer, let me read you what we have prepared and then we can discuss. The short answer is no. A tax has the primary purpose of raising revenue. By contrast, the government doesn't keep the carbon fee revenue. Instead, it is recycled to households as a carbon dividend in the way that we've been discussing. This does not grow the government and is characterized as a fee rather than a tax. And that's a very short but very accurate description of the nature of the beast. People want to call this a tax, but it's not. The government does not have any claim to the money. They cannot invade the trust fund in which the bill establishes. It is a fee, it's not a trust, it's not a tax, and we don't pay a penny into it. But we do receive the results.
Yeah, thanks for addressing that, Jeff. Karen, you had a question? Go ahead. Thanks for waiting. I believe you're actually muted, so you just want to click the unmute button at the bottom of the Zoom page. Oh, it's all good.
Okay, there are two of them there.
Yeah.
All right. In Europe and other places in the world, the price of
Yeah.
fuel for vehicles is almost twice or substantially more than in the United States. Is this fashioned after any other country or any successful programs at other places or another place in the world?
Actually, Canada has several provinces that have already enacted this, and they've seen success from it. I believe also one of our states, Alaska, has a similar program, which has worked successfully. So this is what CCL has kind of, you know, represented the bill from. So, but yes, you are very much correct in the fact that even though the US is such a global entity, we're very much considered a powerhouse within the world. We are one of the latecomers to this initiative. So definitely increasing the price of gasoline just slightly, 11 cents per gallon, has significant results, and hopefully other countries will follow suit. But yes, you're right that other countries have already done so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Is it, Kelsey, is it okay if I add something to that?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, regarding Europe, I just wanted to mention that several European countries do have carbon taxes, but in general, they have much higher gasoline taxes as well, but they don't have this dividend mechanism in place in the carbon taxes that exist in Europe. So that's the difference.
Thank you.
And then I believe Monty and Christy, sorry if I mispronounced that.
So something I'm wondering, you mentioned the kind of this goes after sort of the fossil fuel industry. Is there anything with regards to, I'm going to say, the beef industry? I don't know if most people are aware, but actually the beef industry is one of the major contributors to climate issues as well. Does this do anything to address that, or is that outside of the scope?
This is, I would consider that personally to be outside of the scope of the CCL. There is a board that you could go to and actually address that question with the CCL. So they're always looking for new opportunities for environmental legislation. So this Carbon and Dividend Act would apply directly to gasoline, but the organization as a whole is always looking for new opportunities for other legislation in other sectors. So for example, this may be dealing more with logistics and transportation, where that might be more of an agricultural realm. So I can definitely go ahead and post something about that though and get back to you. If you'd like to include your email address in the chat, I'd be happy to go ahead and submit that, because I do agree. I think that's definitely something to look into. And this bill doesn't necessarily pertain to it, but there is an opportunity for other bills too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Miss Vanessa, yeah.
Hi. Okay, so kind of on the micro level, the Maui County Council endorses it. Did they, or would there be any plans to streamline the process for solar installations or for county permits? Because if the federal is going to be going, towards taxing this, the price is going to be increased for consumers. So hopefully more people will opt for solar options. But it's a really extensive time frame to get permits and all of that for solar installations.
Yes, so that would be considered, if we were to take that money and put it towards solar panels, then it would be considered a tax, where this is just considered a fee in the sense that it's recycled back to any taxpayer. So if you filed your taxes, you would receive this back monthly. So the difference is that would essentially be considered a tax, and the government would then collect it and manufacture the solar panels.
Thank you.
Kelsey, I'd like to add a little something to that.
Sure.
About Maui County. Councilmember Kelly King has established a climate action and resiliency committee, and I and several other people are on a working group supporting that committee in developing policies and in some cases legislation regarding a whole range of environmental activities and initiatives. I've been working with the council off and on for 30 years, and I can tell you, never have seen the kind of production we're getting now. If you're interested, I would suggest that you contact her office and ask to get on their mailing list, and they will keep you abreast of everything that's going on, of opportunities to testify. It's a very different kind of county administration activity than I've experienced in the past.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just one more point about that. So solar energy is a great form of energy, but it does apply to only states such as Hawaii. It might not apply on a national level, where this bill is intended for national use. So it's just the best way to reach all the states, but I am an advocate for solar energy. And then I think Ms. Mariko, you had a question? Yeah.
Yes, I have 3 short questions. First one is, what is the end goal of this House bill? Is it to, I mean,
Yes.
for the fossil fuel companies to go under, or what really is the end goal of this bill? And then the second question is that the CCL normally works only at the national level, or do you work at the state or county levels? And then the third question is, what do the volunteers actually do?
That's great. No, those are very good questions. Thanks for asking, Mariko. So your first question was, what is the point of this? So essentially the point of it is to reduce carbon emissions. And based upon the studies that CCL has done, the program would reach its goal of cutting US greenhouse gas emissions 90% below levels. So that is our hope, that carbon emissions will be lowered and reduced, and with that we'll experience less air pollution and just a healthier environment for future generations, and hopefully a reduction in climate change. And then I believe, what was your second question again, Mariko? Sorry about that.
If the CCL works only at the national level or state, or?
Yes, so we work with state legislatures. So we lobby. That kind of ties into your third question of what do CCLers kind of do. So we lobby each year to promote sustainable efforts and sustainable legislation towards a healthier environment. So with that, we have chapters on Maui. We have chapters on Hawaii. We also have chapters on the Big Island. So each county has its own chapter with members who are interested in it. So with that, we have national calls each month that kind of tie into what's going on, what organizations might be beneficial to the bill, and also addressing, like Monty and Christy had a great question of, are there any other efforts that we could be doing, any other legislation that we could be promoting, introducing to the House? So it is a national organization, but we do lobby efforts on a county basis and a statewide basis as well. But yeah.
Chelsea, can I add something to that?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so at the state level, there was a bill in the Hawaii state legislature for related carbon fee and dividend type bill. Worked a little differently than the federal one, but it passed one of the state houses in early March and then just got cut up in the shutdown. So it was on its way to making it through both houses, but didn't make it through because of the shutdown for COVID. So that was a parallel effort at the state level in Hawaii. So it'll probably be reintroduced next year as well. And since Hawaii already has 100% renewable portfolio standard for electric power, both the state and federal bill are very complementary to that effort, since we're already on the record of supporting the total elimination of carbon emissions, at least from the electric power sector. So we were working on that, and the Maui County Council resolution to support these bills happened literally days before the shutdown, so it's limited the follow-up that we've been able to have at the local level.
Thank you.
But there was a third, did we answer the question about what we actually do in the chapter?
What do you do?
I'll let the others speak to that.
Yeah, so we lobby. We are an environmentalist lobby. So we do lobby legislation to current candidates that are already in the House or the Senate. But we did that, I believe, last month. So our chapter alone conducted, I want to say 4 to 5 different meetings. I'm not too sure if we're able to disclose the names of the politicians that we met with, but yeah, each meeting went very well. I can personally say that ours went over 2 hours. So it was great to see that there's a passion for it here within the Hawaii state.
So basically you write to these legislators and meet with them and that is that?
Yes, we educate them upon the bills that are currently in circulation that we're trying to pass. So we essentially educate them that way in case it comes up to vote, they can vote for it, hopefully. But yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a great question, yes, because a lot of times you hear from organizations and you wonder, what do you actually do out there? And so yes, we meet with politicians. Everything, unfortunately, this year has been met via Zoom, which is still great because then there's no time limit on it necessarily. The meetings can go on as long as they like or as short as they like. And then there's a lot of follow-ups in between there. But yeah. Heidi?
I had a question about the monthly dividend check. I mean, first of all, it just seems like calculating that for every single person is a lot of administrative work. I mean, why not just do something annually, like when people do their taxes, or I don't know, it just seems like a lot to do it monthly. I mean, have you explored other options?
If I may, the bill projects an 8% rate or an 8% fee or charge the first year to set it up. After that, 1 or 2% a year to administer it. It's impossible to know now what's going to happen because there's still a fairly long process that the bill has to go through before it actually is passed. So we don't really know what the final mechanicals will be, let's say. But the important thing is the idea of the dividend and the way it's distributed is important, but in my opinion, not as important as the nature of the mechanism that we have chosen to distribute the money.
Still very important though to know how it's going to be administered and how it's going to be distributed. One of the important parts of this bill is the fact that it will be administered back to the people. So it's not going to be collected by the government for it to go to a different facility. Even though there are other important things out there like education and welfare, it's essential that it does go back to the people, whether it be on a monthly basis or an annual basis. That'll be kind of worked out in the end. But as of right now, it is monthly. So, but that's a really good question, Heidi. Thanks for asking. Yeah, thank you. Does anybody else have, I don't see any more questions in the chat. So that was really good.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like we're up against our time limit. It's 6:25. We usually have an hour's worth of Zoom time. Is that correct?
Yes, we're just about to finish up. So
Good timing, Vanessa.
No, thank you, Jeff. Really appreciate you and Kelsey and Barry being able to be here today and give us some more information on this interesting bill. And thank you. Do we have any other comments for Jeff before we move on? Awesome. Thank you again. And then in other news, our next meeting is going to be with Dr. Qaser Ahmed on September 15th. He's going to be speaking to us about the international project in Bangladesh. So if you'd like to come and hear about that interesting story, please come and see us. And that, again, that's going to be on September 15th, 5:30. And if there's not anything else, I hope you guys have a fantastic Tuesday. It was so great to see everybody.
Great. Thank you very much. Mahalo.
Thank you all.
Aloha. Thank you, Mariko.
So I saved the chat, so that's easy to
Great.
send. So let me find out how to send this video, okay?
Okay. Would you like me to call